Today's video takes a bit of a different turn. It's a news roundup to keep you all in the loop. We'll dive into some of the hottest topics. But of course, there's no hotter subject than Tyson Fury. Let's kick things off with his 6th retirement announcement. Yep, that's right, retirement number 6 from boxing. We've seen it before. Back in 2013, after the David Haye fight fell through. Again after pulling out of the Klitschko rematch. Another one in August 2017 amid his hiatus and the Board of Control lawsuit. Then following the Dillian Whyte bout. Yet another in August 2022. And now, January 2025. The timing couldn't have been more convenient.
Is that the one you're gunning for? Is that it now? That's it?
Well, it's a fight that I want to see.
Yeah.
Because I'm a fan of boxing, so I want to get that fight underway in front of me. So what I want to do is leave the game with a bang and make an impact. Be outlandish, great character, have fun with it while we're doing it, and go for the big fights. Tyson Fury is one of them.
Could it? Not only did it land the same day as the press conference for the biggest fight card ever, but it also lined up perfectly with the potential Anthony Joshua-AJ matchup. Turkey, Eddie, and Frank were all on board, and AJ has been making plenty of noise about it, and then he goes and pulls this move. Classic Tyson, right? It was pretty odd that he didn't show up to the old Ring Awards. Not the best look for you. Tyson Turkey probably told him, "Son, I've just paid you £250 million. The least you can do is come to my awards, have a bit of egg and chips, and join in the celebration." But Tyson, nah, not interested. Bit of a slap in the face to Turkey there. Anyway, despite that, he still knows how to stir up the boxing world. Everyone went into meltdown, wondering, wait, he's retired. What about the AJ fight? Who's wearing a mask? Who's playing games? It got ridiculous. But after crying retirement so many times, no one really believes him anymore, and rightly so. It's all just nonsense. There's too much money in boxing these days. Is he just creating a storyline for his Netflix documentary? Is he avoiding AJ, or is he hoping AJ loses another fight during his retirement, so he doesn't have to face him? Maybe he's strengthening his leverage for a big return. Or maybe he's just doing it for the attention. Pick your explanation. It's probably one of those, but whatever the reason, don't be surprised if he's back in the ring later this year. Now, speaking of AJ, and what comes next for him, there's a lot to figure out. But let's switch gears for a minute. What's going on with Tyson's old rival Deontay Wilder? Rumor has it, he's making a comeback this spring. But who's his opponent? Well, word on the street is it's none other than Curtis Harper. Yeah, let that sink in. You might remember Harper from the infamous ring walkout. All those years ago he showed up, the bell rang, and then he just walked right off. And based on his record, it looks like Wilder's going to be back to his usual business, fighting an opponent well out of his league, making him look good. Wilder's built his career on these kinds of mismatches, so why are we surprised? However, this particular one is pretty sad. At least when AJ made his comeback.
Between the hours of 11 p.m. and 7 a.m., they're not allowed to come to your house. You seem to go down and rest. So a lot of athletes can take very fast-acting testosterone or growth hormones, which can leave your body, which can only be in your body for 7 or 8 hours. So you could take it at sort of 9 or 10 p.m. and it'll be out of your system by 7, 8 in the morning. Does that make sense? So there are ways that can get around it. Like there's a lot of ways, they may take a diuretic to flush out, what they've been taking. There's a lot of tricks, especially when you get to the higher level, the elite level, world level, maybe European. You'll find every possible way of winning. And you got to think about it when they're out of camp, when they're not in training camp, unless they're enrolled in the WBC clean boxing all year round random blood testing. What's stopping them doping when they're out of season?
When Daniel Dubois made his comeback from injury, he fought a solid opponent like Big Baby Miller, a former world champion. But when a fighter who once claimed to be one of the greatest ever, like Wilder, is stooping this low-no offense to Curtis Harper, it's hard to respect. When Wilder knocks Harper out, it's not going to prove anything. Once again, the only person who deserves credit here is Harper himself. Fair play to him for stepping up, assuming he stays in the ring this time. But for Wilder, it's like we're stepping back a decade, with pointless fights that achieve nothing. He's just padding his record, and it's not a good look. Moving on to another questionable situation, let's talk about our friendly neighborhood doctor, the now infamous Dr. Usman. When Dennis McCann popped for a test, we all thought, maybe a bit of choline, a bit of Osterin, or a minor booster to give him that edge in his next fight. But no, it turns out he had a whole medicine cabinet from Brock Lesnar in his system. Yes, old Brock was on steroids back in the day, wouldn't guess it, right? Anyway, it turns out some heavy-duty enhancers showed up on McCann's failed test. I mean, what was he thinking with the trend baloney? Was he planning to take on Mr. Olympia after the McGrath fight? But thankfully, McCann's not the only one in trouble. Dr. Usman, who has connections to both Conor Benn and Tyson Fury, both of whom failed tests for banned substances, now under investigation by the Boxing Board of Control. About time, right? And do you know what's going to happen during this investigation? Do you know what they'll find with all their fancy detective work? Probably nothing, to be honest. There likely won't be a shred of evidence connecting him to any shady dealings. No fighter will rat him out, because that would just draw attention to themselves, and then they'd get investigated too. The truth is, it'll be nearly impossible to prove that he had a hand in their failed tests, but we all know the saying, where there's
put his own stipulations on it, saying, he's going to demand, 24-hour drug testing all the way leading up.
I'll put my predicaments on it. We won't be using VADA. I'll be using the people I want to use, because for some reason, Bill Haney keeps on saying VADA, 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 VADA. It's kind of strange to me.
Today's video takes a slightly different approach, offering a news roundup to keep you all updated. We'll cover some of the hot topics, but of course, there's no hotter subject than our very own Tyson Fury. Let's dive in to retirement number 6. Yep, that's right, his 6th retirement from boxing. We saw it in 2013 after the David Haye fight fell through, then after pulling out of the Klitschko rematch, followed by the August 2017 hiatus and Board of Control lawsuit. Then, there was another retirement after the Dillian Whyte fight, another in August 2022, and now, in January 2025. Convenient timing, wasn't it? Not only did this retirement announcement drop the same day as the presser for the biggest card ever, but it also lined up perfectly with the AJ fight. Eddie and Frank were all on board, and AJ's been making quite a bit of noise about the fight, too. So, is that the one he's after? The fight is one I want to see, personally. I'm a fan of boxing, so I want to see that matchup happen. What I'd like to do is leave the sport with a bang, make an impact, and go for those big fights while I'm having fun. Tyson Fury is one of them. But then, just like clockwork, Tyson pulls this expletive move. Classic Tyson. It was a bit odd that he didn't show up to the Ring Awards, right? That's pretty bad, considering how much money he's been paid by Frank. Frank should have said, Tyson, I've just paid you $250 million, so how about coming to my little awards dinner, having some egg and chips with me, and celebrating? But Tyson was like, nope, can't be asked. Classic double liberty move. That said, Tyson certainly knows how to stir the boxing world, doesn't he? We all went nuts, asking, now he's retired. What about the AJ fight? Who's wearing a mask? Is he fighting a guy named Dick Ting next? And why is he talking about being robbed? It all went mental, but after crying wolf so many times, no one believes it anymore, and rightfully so. It's all just nonsense. There's too much money in the sport these days for this to be true. Is he creating a storyline for his Netflix documentary? Is he ducking AJ, hoping AJ loses in another fight during his retirement, so he doesn't have to face him? Is he just trying to strengthen his bargaining power for a return? Or is it all just for attention? You pick. It's probably one of those things. Either way, expect him back in the ring later this year. We'll get back to Tyson in a bit, because, of course, this leaves us with the question, what's next for AJ? But in the meantime, what's going on with Deontay Wilder? Well, apparently, the Bronze Bomber is set to return this spring. But who's his opponent? Word on the street is it's Mr. Curtis Harper. Yes, that Curtis Harper. Give me strength. You might recognize this guy from the infamous ring walkout years ago. He showed up, the bell rang, and he expletive off. Judging by Harper's record, it looks like business as usual for Wilder. We're going back to another opponent who's completely out of Wilder's league, and one that will make him look good. Wilder has made a career off this, so why are we surprised? But this one feels particularly pathetic. At least when AJ made his comeback, he fought Jermaine Franklin, who's a solid fighter. When Daniel Dubois returned from injury, he fought the very solid Big Baby Miller. But here we have Wilder fighting Curtis Harper, a former world champion, once hailed as one of the greatest. Shouldn't be stooping this low, should he? No offense to Harper, but when Wilder knocks him out, it's going to prove absolutely nothing. The only person who deserves credit here is Harper himself. I'll give him fair play for taking this fight well, assuming he stays in the ring this time. But for Deontay, it feels like we're going back a decade to when he was fighting pointless opponents, achieving nothing, and padding his record. It's not exactly the best look, is it? Anyway, moving on to another not-so-great look. Let's talk about our good OL-friendly neighborhood doctor, yes, the now infamous Dr. Usman. When Dennis McCann popped for a failed test, many of us probably thought, just a cheeky bit of chicane, maybe some Ostarine, or a little booster to get him firing on all cylinders for his next fights. But no, turns out he had most of Brock Lesnar's entire medicine cabinet inside him. By the way, Lesnar was on steroids back in the day, though you'd never guess it, right? Anyway, it turns out some serious performance-enhancing drugs showed up on his test. I don't even know what he was hoping to achieve by taking Trenbolone was. He trying to become Mr. Olympia after the McGrail fight. Thankfully, he's not the only one in trouble. Dr. Usman, who's been linked to both Conor Benn and Tyson Fury, both of whom tested positive for banned substances, now under investigation by the Boxing Board of Control. About time, right? But here's what's going to happen when they investigate him. Nothing. They'll find nothing. Because let's be honest, there's probably no hard evidence connecting him to his shady dealings. No fighter's going to rat him out either, because if they do, it'll bring attention to themselves and get them investigated too. It's going to be near impossible to prove his involvement in any of their failed tests. That said, we all know that, in general, there's no smoke without fire. And, by the way, he doesn't exactly help his case when he puts things like this out in the public domain. Yeah, great, he said all that, but it turns out he's absolutely useless at cheating anyway. Hopefully, with this Dennis McCann situation being exposed, the board can step in and ban him from boxing altogether. Ultimately, his advice and expertise could end up being dangerous, and you'd hope that fighters won't want to work with him anymore. If they do, they definitely shouldn't be seen with him for photos. As for Dennis, well, he deserves a lifetime ban if all this turns out to be true. If Liam Cameron gets 4 years for a non-performance enhancing substance, then this kind of behavior deserves a punishment way beyond that. We'll see what happens. Now, staying on the topic of failed drug tests, Ryan Garcia made some bold claims at the Ring Awards the other day. Brilliant stuff. So, the man who got caught with a banned substance is now saying he won't use the agency that caught him, and instead, he'll find his own. Fantastic. Right, that seems fair. It's like a burglar getting caught by the police and saying, wait, I don't want to use that police force. Let me find my own. He's still going on about something shady happening with VADA, but it's just more pointless talk. The fact is, he failed to test one the day before the fight, and one on fight day. He then requested the B sample to be tested, and it came back the same. The New York Athletic State Commission did their investigation, and also concluded that he cheated, resulting in a 1-year ban, which, by the way, is a pretty soft ban. So what's his argument? If he's adamant about never using VADA again, then he can kiss goodbye to big fights in the future, because Eddie Hearn, Frank Warren, all the big Saudi cards, and toe-pranking promotions all use VADA for testing. So, if he's not playing by those rules, he'll find himself left out of the picture. Now, back to Fury. His so-called retirement has completely messed up this year's most anticipated fight. What did he mean by the dick-touring comment? Well, who knows what's going on in his mind, but it sounds like he's implying some kind of robbery. Let's be clear, the majority of the boxing world, including the judges, agree that he lost both fights to Usyk. Even the second fight had an AI judge agreeing with that assessment, so there was no robbery there. He's made millions from Saudi deals in the past year and a half, so there's no robbery involved there either. He was lucky to get a decision in the fight with Ngannou, which could have gone either way again. No robbery. And he definitely won't get cheated on the AJ fight. He's guaranteed to make no less than $50 million for that, which is a more than generous purse. So, in light of all this, it's hard to see any robbery claims sticking. That said, even though Fury hasn't retired, AJ will probably have to look elsewhere for the time being. If he's planning to fight early this year, it looks like there could be something with Martin Bowley in Africa, which sounds exciting. But if not, AJ may very well focus on the winner of the Zan Kabel fight to get back in line for the belts. Some people aren't as excited about the AJ versus Fury fight anymore. But for those of us who still are, it's a bit disappointing that it was almost there. But once again, we've had that dream squashed. Thanks, Tyson. But that's boxing for you. Anyway, drop your thoughts below. Adios for now.